Tom.
Hello, Maureen.
Today we're going to be doing the COPM, which is a measure to help us assess what's going well in your life and what things you'd like to change after you had your stroke. So we're going to go through a couple of different areas like personal care, so that's hygiene and eating, mobility, which is how you're walking places, if driving is important, and then also community management, like going out and about, and then we're also going to talk about your productivity, and finally your leisure, like what's important to you, what you do for fun. And then after this is done, we're going to rate how important all of these things are to you, and then we can go from there in terms of developing goals for therapy.
Okay, sounds good.
So the first area we're going to talk about is self-care. So how are things going for personal care, things like dressing, bathing, feeding, hygiene?
I'm currently having a little bit of difficulty with dressing and feeding. I'm left-handed, and so it really plays into that. And I've definitely been having a hard time cutting my own hair. That's something that was important to me, and so it's definitely something I would like to have back.
How about things like getting dressed in the morning? Is that difficult?
As I just
Mm.
said, yeah, dressing is, something that is a little bit difficult. The buttons, I like to wear my snazzy bow ties. So, just kind of like those smaller movements are a little bit difficult.
How about things like getting in and out of the shower, getting in and out of your car, walking outside? How are those things going for you?
I've been doing generally, you know, okay with that. I can do it, but I'm moving at a slower pace than I'm used to. So that's something that kind of bothers me. I want to be back to where I was. I used to, travel all the time with my family, but, now I can't because, it's just been something that I can't really handle. Yeah.
How about community management? So things like going grocery shopping, going to pick up your dry cleaning. How are things like that going?
It's been kind of tough. Again, just like kind of slower getting around and doing things like that. And I'm a very active member of my church and my local community, but I've been less influential in these communities because I feel like I'm limited in what I can contribute, and I just having some troubles.
How about driving? Are you able to still drive?
As of right now, I am not driving. I just want to feel a little more confident before I get back behind the wheel.
So you're okay being driven around right now?
I wouldn't say I'm okay with it. I definitely wish I could do it on my own, but it is what it is right now.
Okay. Now we're going to move into more productivity. So how is work going? Are you still working or are you retired?
I am still working. I am a local business owner, Entertainment 720, and it's something that I do with my wife. And I felt a little less confident at work because my wife and I were in charge of day-to-day operations, and so accounting and manual labor tasks and marketing, and especially with the manual labor, I've really had to depend more on my wife and more on my employees, and that's something that I used to do. And so just some of the accounting and marketing tasks, taking more energy to concentrate on those things and stuff like that.
How about things around the house, like cooking and cleaning? How involved are you in that?
The cleaning I usually leave up to the girls. They're 14 and 18. It's time for them, to be responsible. But cooking every Sunday after church, I like to make, a big family meal. But again, now that's one of those things where it takes a lot more effort and I have to rely a lot on other people. So that's something I like to get back to.
So you'd like to be able to cook for your family again?
Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing we're going to go through is leisure. So what are your hobbies right now? What do you like to do for your fun time?
Well, right now in my leisure, I do like to play dominoes every Wednesday with my boys, just some leisure time. I really like, I like to go fishing. That's something that's important to me. And then, you know, on Mondays, me and the family, we go to Bible study, and that's something that's a leisurely activity for me.
Okay, the next thing is active recreation. So you mentioned that you like to travel. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, me and the girls and the wife, we travel across the U.S. We travel abroad. You know, I really want them to be strong, independent, educated Black women. So I just make sure they get to see the see the world, and that's something you know that's been really limited ever since you know the infarction.
Okay, how about socialization? Things like visiting friends, phone calls, parties, things like that. How important is that to you?
It's really important. I'm very social, you know, as a community leader, a business person, and a deacon at my church. Socialization is something very important to me, but I've been feeling a little less confident, a little too nervous to get out there. You know, I don't want anyone to judge me because, you know, I'm struggling more. So I've been a little upset about those, and that's something that's important to me to be able to socialize again.
Mm-hmm. Great. So it seems like we've generated a pretty big list of things that we could potentially work on with you. So the next thing we're going to do is rate how important each of these things are to you. So this isn't necessarily how you feel like you're performing now. It's just on a scale from 1, meaning not important, to 10, meaning very important, how much it means to you to be able to do these activities.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, I think you explained it well.
Okay. So the first thing we talked about was dressing and feeding yourself, and you having difficulties with your using your left hand. So how important is it to you that you're able to dress and feed yourself?
That's a 10.
How about cutting your own hair?
I'd say that's about a 6, 7.
How about you mentioned you were slower moving around outside. So how important is it to you to get faster when you're going out in the community?
A 10.
How about being involved in church and being able to go to church?
A 10. Very important to me.
And then driving?
Also a 10.
Also a 10. All right. The next section is the productivity section. So how important is working to you and maintaining your business?
A 10. How I gotta support my family.
Mm-hmm. How about household management? So getting to cook again.
Well, it's been kind of nice having Sasha and Malia do the work, so I wouldn't say it's that important. It's good to see the girls doing it. So maybe, you know, a 6.
Okay, so a little lower on that one because you have the family support. The next one we're talking about is leisure. So how important is it to you to be able to keep up things like socialization, like your dominoes games and your fishing and Bible study?
10.
How about traveling with your family?
I'd say about an 8.
Okay. And then socialization, so maintaining your leadership role in the community as part of your church. How important is
A
that?
10.
Okay, so we've got a lot of really important goals. That's great. So I know it's going to seem difficult, but what we're going to do is we're going to pick your top 5 goals that we came up with. So out of the list that we just generated, and I can read back some of the suggestions to you, do you have any idea what you would want your top 5 goals to be? And these 5 don't have to be in any particular order.
Okay. Definitely being able to dress and feed myself
Okay.
is highly important to me.
We should separate those out. So do you want those to be 2 separate goals, dressing as one and feeding yourself as another?
Why do you think that should be 2 different? I thought those were all self-care things.
They are, but they require a little bit different things that we would work through in therapy. And the way we would go about treating them in therapy is different. So we can put both of these on this list if you want.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, what about for your next goal?
I feel like maintaining the business is a very high priority.
Okay.
Being active in the church again, and I guess the community, because the church is my community
Okay.
as well.
Great. And then one more. You mentioned things like dominoes with your friends, fishing. There's also travel. Getting around in the community, moving around at a faster pace.
Yeah, mobility would be nice to work on.
Okay, so just faster mobility in your community.
Yeah, being faster than the community, and if driving counts as mobility, that's just in general being able to be more independent and getting from point A to point B.
Okay, so just mobility independence then. Great. So what we're going to do next, now for these 5 goals that we've identified, is we're going to rate your performance on these goals. So how you feel you're doing now after the stroke. So these can all be important to you, but now we're rating how well you're able to engage in these things. Do you have any questions about that?
So I'm rating it based off of what?
Your performance. So how well you're able to currently perform in these different tasks.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if I'm not doing well, I would give it a lower number?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to rate it from 1 to 10, with 1 being not performing at all and 10 being maximal performance. You think you're doing great.
Okay.
Okay, so from 1 to 10, can you rate how dressing is going for you right now?
I'd have to give that probably a 4.
Okay.
Just a lot of struggles.
Yeah. So the next one is feeding. So how is feeding yourself at dinner time and meal times going?
I can do it. It's just very slow. It's, taking a long time. It's probably a 6.
Okay. The next thing is how well you're able to be running your business and how things are going at work.
Kind of like feeding, I can do it, but it's slower and it's harder. So I'd say about a 6.
Okay. The next one is church and being involved in your community. How well do you think your performance is in that currently?
I've had to, give up a lot of things, and so I'd probably say that's about a 5.
Okay. And then the last one is mobility. So those are things like moving around from point A to point B independently. That's walking, and then potentially later driving. So how do you feel you're performing in that right now?
Well, I'm not driving right now. I'm walking real slow. Everyone's always like, look out, Tom might fall. And it's a bummer. So probably a 3.
Okay, so now that we've done that, the last thing we're going to rate today is your satisfaction with how these things are going. So a good example that we heard in class is that an Olympic gymnast might get an 8 out of 10, but she feels really good about that, so she'd give her satisfaction on that a 10 out of 10. So you could be performing at a certain level and feel not very satisfied about that, or you could be happy with how you're performing that right now. So from a scale of 1, meaning not satisfied at all, to 10, meaning completely satisfied, we're going to rate how you feel about your performance in these categories.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, I think I get it.
Okay. So the first one, how satisfied are you with how well you're dressing yourself right now?
Not very satisfied. I would give it a 2.
2. Okay. The next one is feeding. How do you feel about your performance with feeding yourself right now?
I would give it an 8 because I'm happy that even though it's slow, I can do it by myself.
Okay. The next one is business and work. So how satisfied are you with how well you're participating at work right now?
I'm kind of disappointed that I have to rely on so many different people right now, so maybe a 5.
Okay. How about church and your community? How satisfied are you with your participation in church?
Giving up a lot of things, so probably a 2.
2. And then the last one is mobility, so how you're able to get around right now.
I can't drive, but I'm making it work. It's a slow shuffle, but I get there. And that's what matters, so I'm going to say 7.
Okay, so you feel good about that one. Great. So now we've rated your top 5 goals on how well you're performing and how satisfied you are with that. And we're going to use these in therapy to come up with some goals for intervention. And then at the end of our intervention, we're going to look at these again and see if anything has changed about your performance and satisfaction. So do you have any questions for me before we leave?
So by the end of therapy, I'll be able to do all of these things perfectly?
You're not necessarily going to be able to do all these things perfectly, but we do hope that we'll see progress in both how well you're performing on them and how much satisfaction you're getting out of your performance. So the goal mainly for occupational therapy is to make sure that you're being able to function in areas that are important to you. So we will hopefully be making that easier for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Noreen.
Thank you, Tom, for coming in today.